the new chair of the Massachusetts Republican Party, is with us. Let's go on the record. Amy Carnevale faces a daunting task, rebuilding a party completely shut out of statewide offices. Can the GOP win back voters to their cause, or is the Bay State just too blue for the conservatives? The chair joins us at the table.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
And welcome to OTR. Hi there, I'm Ben Simoneau. Ed Harding's off this Sunday. Joining me is News Center 5 political reporter Sharmin Cecchetty, and our guest this Sunday is Amy Carnevale. She's the new chair of the Massachusetts Republican Party. She's also a government affairs advisor for the K&L Gates law firm. She worked in the administration of President George H.W. Bush and served as chief of staff to former Congressman George Nethercutt of Washington State. In 2017, she was appointed to Governor Baker's Commission on Intellectual Disability and continues to serve on that commission. She holds a BA in political science from George Washington University. Amy, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So not to be overly clever, but the elephant in the room right now for the Massachusetts Republican Party is Donald Trump. So my question is, where do you stand on that? Will the Mass GOP, under your leadership, closely align itself with the former president?
Well, you know, I trust members of our party to make a decision that is best for the people in the Commonwealth. So as party chair, I don't endorse any particular candidate, but I think we'll have a robust discussion and debate about, what candidate makes sense for voters in the Commonwealth. And at the end of the day, I think they'll support the candidate that makes sense for Massachusetts.
Well, I have to ask you, because if he is the nominee for the 2024 election, will your party support him?
So again, I am a Republican, so I will support the Republican nominee, regardless of who that is. But, I'm really focused here in Massachusetts about focusing on elections here in the state, whether that be, recruiting for the U.S. Senate race or congressional races or races on Beacon Hill. And so that's going to be, frankly, my focus, less on the presidential.
Do you think, though, he's toxic here in Massachusetts politics? You say your focus is Massachusetts, but we just saw an election cycle where a lot of candidates on the Republican ticket here in the state sought his support and endorsement, and they got, frankly, crushed.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this. So I ran on a fresh start. I think that it is a new day in the Mass GOP, and it is a party that is going to welcome members of all stripes. If you call yourself a Republican, I call you a member of our party. So I'm really going to welcome Republicans across the board. And again, focus on those candidates. When I'm thinking about candidate recruitment, really focus on candidates that connect with their communities, maybe have served in their communities and have a passion for service.
So what's your number one priority as the new party chair?
So really stabilization of the party. I am inheriting a party that's in some debt. So we need to raise some money. And to do that, we really have to project an image of professionalism. And then focus on recruitment of candidates and then building the infrastructure of the party so that we can then support those candidates effectively.
You mentioned the debt. You've said the party may have $600,000 in debts. There's an investigation into the misreporting of large sums of money. How can you rebuild when you don't have somebody in elected office like a governor or another statewide office holder to help you raise that money?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So first, on the misreporting, we almost concluded that process with the Office of Political and Campaign Finance, OCPF. So that's really coming to a conclusion. And then on raising the money to pay off the debt, it's a process. It's going to take some rebuilding of trust with the electorate to do that. And, I do think a healthy democracy means that we have a two-party system. And I'm hearing from individuals who want to get back to having that two-party system in the Commonwealth, and they want to engage.
You say it's coming to a conclusion. What kind of conclusion do you anticipate?
So on the misreporting, it's basically just attributing spending in the last campaign cycle to the proper candidates. So it's, whether it was maybe an in-kind contribution for a former gubernatorial candidate and not a party contribution. So it's more of a technical issue on that misreporting.
It doesn't rise to a criminal level?
So there is a separate investigation that is ongoing that we're aware of, and that is an ongoing investigation. with an independent expenditure committee by the prior chair. So that'll take its course. I have committed myself to transparency and openness, and we're going to put everything on our books and open up our books. We are under audit right now with OCPF, and I do believe that audit is coming to a conclusion, and it'll be available for everybody to see. But I can really only focus on going forward, and that's transparency and openness.
All right. Well, Charlie Baker, a Republican, he was the most popular governor in the country when he stepped down in January. Today, Republicans don't hold any statewide offices. They don't hold any congressional seats. They are less than 9% of the electorate here in Massachusetts. How do you bring the party back from the brink of irrelevance?
Yeah, so I wouldn't go so far to say it's the brink of irrelevance, but we've talked about already building that trust, and it's building the trust both within our own party and also reaching out to independents. We have over 60% of voters in the Commonwealth are unenrolled voters, so it's conveying a message that connects with those voters. We have had success in electing Republican governors, and so it can be done, and it's with a message that appeals to those independent voters.
But a specific kind of Republican governor, right? In the mold of Charlie Baker, Bill Weld, Paul Cellucci, those types of Republicans. Do you think that Charlie Baker's a rhino?
No, absolutely not. No, Charlie Baker's a Republican, period. So I'm not into labels or names.
You just appointed Caroline Colarusso, who challenged Catherine Clark for her congressional seat, as the Mass GOP's election integrity liaison. Do you really believe there are integrity issues here in the Commonwealth?
So I think one of the biggest issues we do have here in the Commonwealth is associated with the mail-in balloting process and updating those voter rolls. So the voter rolls tend to get stale, people move around, and we did see in the last election a number of ballots mailed out to individuals at their prior addresses in the voting rolls. So it's not necessarily fraud as it is best practices. And mail-in voting is new here in the Commonwealth, so it's something that really deserves attention and deserves the attention of the party to ensure that it's done properly.
But you don't think there's fraud across the Commonwealth?
I don't think it's broad-based, but certainly it's not something we should ignore. Yeah.
How so? What do you mean?
Well, certainly we should pay attention. So if there are these ballots that are going to previous addresses and people are voting, we need to be aware of that and put in place checks and balances for clerks.
Mail-in voting is here to stay.
Of course it's here. Of course it's here. But again, it's a new process here in the Commonwealth, so we can learn from other states that have had it longer to keep our voter rolls up to date and ensure that the people who are voting are accurately voting.
Do you believe it's a good thing, mail-in voting? For elections, expanding access?
I do think it's a good thing, but I do think I think the way in which it operates in Massachusetts could use some updating. For example, sending that application to every household, I think, does invite some level of fraud and distrust.
So you should have to seek an application?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was close, but the millionaire's tax did pass last November. Do you expect to organize any sort of ballot questions or movement to try to repeal it?
Yeah, so it's too early to do that because it just passed. But I do think this is a huge loss for our state, and I really fear for the economic consequences of our state in the wake of this so-called millionaire's tax, which is really the first step in putting in place a graduated income tax. Part of
you think that comes next?
I do. I think it opens the door for a graduated income tax. We've always had a 5% flat tax, which has been part of the economic success for Massachusetts, and the fact that we've gotten away from that, I think could set the consequences, for more individuals to leave our Commonwealth, particularly in the light of a post-COVID economy, where people are transient and have that opportunity to leave.
But there's a lot of critics that say the flat tax actually is very regressive for folks at the lower end of the income spectrum.
So certainly at the lower end of the income spectrum, we can put in place credits for those individuals who are most at need. And as Republicans, we believe in assisting those who need help.